Are you looking to travel to Europe for an end of summer vacation and you're holding a US passport? Stop. Wait. Don't book anything yet. Why? Stay tuned. Welcome back to So You Want to Travel, where I give you tips and tricks that I've learned along the way of being a travel agent for almost 22 years. Well, that didn't last long. In June of 2021, we were so excited to hear that the EU, or European Union, was going to add the United States to their safe list, which meant that Americans, vaccinated and unvaccinated, could now travel to Europe. And Italy, which is one of the most popular destinations for Americans, allowed Americans vaccinated and non-vaccinated to start traveling there. Fast forward to last week, however, and the United States has dropped from that list. So what does this mean exactly? Does that mean that Americans can't go to Europe? Does it mean that the Italian trip that you have booked is going to be canceled again? Not necessarily. Since this is a recommendation, the countries have the choice to proceed how they wish. There is information that you need to know, but before we get into that, don't forget to like and subscribe, because not only does that help my channel, but it makes the algorithm happy. So as of now, who's doing what? Well, out of the 27 countries, there are 3 countries that are completely closed to Americans. Their borders are closed, vaccinated or unvaccinated. Those countries are Bulgaria, Norway, and Sweden. There are 2 countries that are allowing fully vaccinated Americans, and that's going to be Finland and Malta. As of now, the rest of the countries also have their different restrictions, and that is different restrictions for vaccinated versus unvaccinated. Here are a couple of examples. Let's start with France, for example. They are allowing US passengers who are fully vaccinated to travel to their country as long as you have proof that you're fully vaccinated. They are also allowing unvaccinated passengers. You just have to have either a negative COVID PCR test or a rapid antigen test, and those cannot be taken more than 72 hours before boarding. Germany, however, is also allowing fully vaccinated passengers, but even fully vaccinated passengers do require a COVID test. Unvaccinated passengers not only have to have a COVID test, but they must quarantine for 10 days. Lithuania I thought was interesting because they are allowing US passengers who are vaccinated, however, only if you have Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Moderna, or AstraZeneca. And for those unvaccinated passengers, you have to have a negative PCR test or antigen test, and you have to quarantine for 10 days. But you do have the ability to test out on day 7. And listen, I know this is very confusing, especially because of the fact that a lot of people, myself included, love to go to different countries when we go to Europe because they're so close together. And it's easy to get to from one to the other by train or by airplane. So IATA actually feels the same way. They've asked the EU if they can make the same requirements across the board so it's not confusing, so that people can travel from one country to the other. Because think about it, logistically, Paris and Rome are so easy to get to by plane, but they do have different requirements. So I'll continue to monitor that, and I'll let you know if anything changes with that. So the good news is you don't have to feel rejected. We can still, for the most part, travel to all the European countries in the EU. Just as I mentioned here in this video, make sure you stay on top of the different changes because they happen constantly and just be aware of what is required of you upon your arrival into the country that you're going to. Will this deter you from traveling? Of course, we all have to make our own decisions. But if you do decide to travel, you have questions, go ahead and leave them down in the comments below. And don't forget about my travel guide. Go ahead and visit my website. It's free and it will help you in 2021 travel and beyond. Don't forget to come back next week for more tips and tricks, and I will actually have a trick for you next week. Talk to you later.